So let's talk about truth. It's a concept so pure, so innocent, yet so profoundly feared and hated. You gotta understand, people hate the truth because it demands something from them. A confrontation with an uncomfortable reality. The truth is a mirror that reflects more than just the world. It also reflects the self. So, why do people hate the truth? Simple. Because it shatters their delusions. People build their lives on comforting lies. We tell ourselves that we're good people, that it's okay to give in to our hedonistic desires, that our failures are the results of forces beyond our control. But the truth shows us consequences of our actions. It forces us to confront our flaws, our failures, and that's uncomfortable. People hate the truth because it's inconvenient. When faced with the truth, they must either change their ways or live with the cognitive dissonance of knowing they're part of the problem. Change is hard, and admitting complicity is even harder. We don't want to take responsibility for our actions. We don't want to face the consequences. And often, we don't. But that decision itself comes with consequences. Corruption, war, tyranny, death. Lying to ourselves only breeds more pain, and yet, most of us are okay with accepting that, so long as we can stay comfortable in our own protected little bubble. But that's why the truth is so important. It aligns us with reality. It strips away the layers of falsehood and misconception that distort our understanding of the world. Trust is the glue that holds society together, and trust is built on the truth. So, why am I talking about truth? Because truth forms the basis of everything, and it's the first step to creating a better world. Objectivism. Objectivism emphasizes reality, reason, and most important, truth. It states that reality exists independently of our beliefs and desires, that reason is our means of understanding reality. In objectivism, truth isn't a virtue, it's the foundation for human existence. Objectivism champions rational self-interest, individual rights, and laissez-faire capitalism. Despite the millions of critics, objectivism offers the most practical framework for fostering human flourishing. So let's find out why. Objectivism starts with a simple premise. Existence exists. It's independent of our perception, and reason is our only means of understanding it. This leads to the principle of rational self-interest. Individuals pursue their own happiness as their highest moral purpose. You might recognize this under a different name, egoism. Egoism essentially means serving the self before all others. In Rand's view, the self is divine, and the pursuit of one's interest is what leads humanity to reaching our full potential. At the political level, objectivism advocates for individual rights, life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. These rights are not granted by governments, but are inherent to human nature. The role of government exists only to protect these rights. It does nothing more than ensure individuals can act freely, provided they do not infringe on the right of others. The non-aggression principle is a core tenet of libertarian philosophy. It defines aggression as the initiation of physical force, threats of violence, or fraud against individuals or their property. Aggression, according to the NAP, is inherently wrong. All human actions must be voluntary to achieve the greatest results of human potential. While the NAP advocates for peaceful interaction, it doesn't rule out the use of force. Force is not only allowed, but necessary. However, force can only be used in self-defense, wherever the line might be drawn. Wherever aggression is enacted on the individual, they may respond in proportional defense to the point where they've recouped their losses. The non-aggression principle is vital to maximizing voluntarism. Voluntarism holds respect for individual autonomy and self-ownership. It posits that individuals should be free to make their own choices and enter into agreements or associations based on their own free will. And here's where we get into conflicting territory. I've heard dozens of reasons why we should not abide by the NAP, but I've never heard a good reason. To be clear, I don't have a problem with involuntarism from a moral perspective because I don't believe in intrinsic moral properties. However, social cohesion is a whole other topic. I don't understand how people can possibly want to live in a society where the NAP is violated. Now, I know there's at least a million rabbit holes we could go down at this point, but I only have so much time. So here are just a few critiques I wanted to address. And just to be clear, these answers will not be fully fleshed out, as each one has enough content for their own video. So let's check them out. Objectivism fosters conflict. Critics argue that a society where everyone pursues their self-interest would lead to inevitable conflict. They envision a chaotic world where individual pursuits clash, creating more harm than good. I can totally envision this world. There would be chaos, people would run rampant, indulging in their most disgusting desires, looting businesses, attacking random people on the street, forcing people to become their slaves. It would be a criminal's utopia, right? Well, no. First off, we need to clarify something. Everyone always pursues their self-interest, so we already live in that world. If you want to debate that topic, I'd love to hear a good explanation for how you don't always make the decision you most prefer with the options you have. But setting that aside for now, a better argument would be that, sure, everyone already does pursue their self-interest, but with a voluntarist society, there would be no protection or rights. Now, here's the problem. I think people have a fundamental misunderstanding about laws. Laws don't necessarily prevent crime. Consequences do. Specifically, the consequences of the laws help deter crime. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, that's a stupid distinction. I already know that it's the consequences of the laws that deter crime. But I don't think people really do. People always talk about chaos without law, but you're forgetting something. Civilization created laws for mutual benefit, and they would have private laws in a voluntarist society to continue that mutual benefit. Yes, there would still be criminals in the beginning, but not for very long. I can't possibly go through the hundreds of possible deterrence methods in a voluntarist society, but there would be many. There would be just as much security, if not more, than in an involuntarist society. But that's an entire other conversation. I will leave you with this though. When individuals act rationally, they understand that harming others ultimately harms themselves. Utilitarianism is more justifiable. Utilitarianism posits that the greatest good for the greatest number is the optimal ethical stance. Critics argue that objectivism, with its focus on individualism, cannot achieve the collective well-being that utilitarianism promises. I cannot possibly cover all the problems with utilitarianism, but I will say that if utilitarians want to create the greatest good for the greatest number of people, they should let people decide for themselves what they value. Utilitarianism goes against the non-aggression principle, forcing people to act against their will. It's almost as if utilitarians think that everyone wants the exact same thing, but that's just not true. Some people want to indulge in material lives. Some people want to live as minimalists. Some people want to build a giant corporation. Utilitarianism takes away the choice of the individual. Utilitarianism just wants to build a super homogenous, super nationalist, and dogmatic civilization that suppresses creativity and freedom. I think we all know the history behind a singular vision of the greatest good and how it often leads to tyranny and oppression. Voluntarism leads to inequality. Critics say that voluntarism exacerbates economic inequality and exploitation. Voluntarism does the opposite of exacerbate economic inequality. Like, this is a stupid point, right? Do I really have to explain how non-voluntarism, meaning the enslavement of someone against their will, leads to more inequality? Was 400 years of transatlantic slavery not enough proof that enslaving people is a bad idea? Do I really have to defend the idea that slavery is not a good economic system? Just so you know, yes, that is what non-voluntarism is. It means non-voluntary. In a non-voluntary system, slaves are completely ethical, so long as it serves the greater good. Now, I'll admit, you caught me. This is an appeal to emotion. So let me try to explain rationally why voluntarist inequality is preferable to non-voluntary inequality. There will always be inequality. In every economic system, in every political structure, in every corner of the world. And that's not because inequality is a bug of reality. Inequality is a feature. It's baked into the natural laws of the universe. You will never get rid of inequality. You can only widen or close the gap. Involuntarism closes the gap. There will always be inequality, no matter which system is chosen. Some people are just more attractive. Some people are just more physically capable. Some people are just smarter. It's not that voluntarism leads to inequality. Inequality is and will forever be everywhere. One day I'll give a more thorough explanation about this topic in general, but I've got some more points to get through. Voluntarism fails to provide public goods. Economists argue that voluntarism does not adequately provide for public goods, such as clean air, public health, and national defense. They believe that government intervention is necessary to manage these issues effectively. Yep, that's true. Voluntarism doesn't directly address those issues, and neither does non-voluntarism. There currently is no non-voluntarist society in the world that is efficient at handling these issues. All around the world, all these issues remain. Pollution, public health problems, and don't even get me started on the wars. The non-voluntarist societies have incredible issues with these problems, so they're not currently in a good state to be judging the voluntarist society. This is another issue that deserves an entire video, so I'll leave it there for now, but we will be revisiting this issue. Necessity of regulation. Opponents of voluntarism argue that regulation is essential to protect consumers, workers, and the environment from abuses to ensure fair practices. Isn't it funny how most of these criticisms of objectivism aren't even about the philosophy itself, but the practical outcomes? I don't know, I just thought it was funny. There is no amount of justice I could do for this topic in just a few words, but I'll say something real quick. Civil voluntarist regulation is way more effective and responsive than government oversight. Just think about how many consumer reviews, independent rating agencies, and watchdog organizations provide immediate feedback and accountability. The majority of regulation is enacted by private citizens. Hell, entire third-party companies are based off of ensuring companies are safe and fair. Okay, so objectivism not only describes the truth of the world, but it offers a prescription on how to maximize humanity's purpose. Now, I understand that everyone watching this video will probably hate me now for being an objectivist. But you've got to understand, as much as you don't see where I'm coming from, I can't see where you're coming from. I don't want to live in a society that encourages slavery, force, and represses creativity. It's making all our lives way harder than it needs to be. If you think my defenses of objectivism weren't robust enough, I agree with you. This is just a general outline about objectivism, voluntarism, and non-aggression. I will absolutely be dedicating more time to fleshing out each of these topics, addressing their criticisms, and providing a good defense. I just wanted to have a really brief overview since I recently read up on it. But yeah, that's everything. That's all I've got for this video. So let me know what I got wrong in the comments. Maybe you agree with me, you probably don't, but you know, there's always the chance. Anyway, see you guys next time. Bye.